Hey everybody, I am here with Mr. Ork Warboss, and we are together going to be showing you my next project, which he is it. This is an elaborate conversion of Ork Warboss done by one of my regular clients, Jeff Borton. Jeff does some amazing work, and he periodically has me paint it for him. And this is another one of those cool pieces. I definitely appreciate the work that goes into something like this. Whenever I consider the possibility of doing a conversion, I usually end up thinking, you know, the kit out of the box looks just fine. I don't need to spend all the extra time doing a conversion, but not Jeff. Jeff goes in and tears it up and puts it together and comes up with these amazing creations. And I'm really looking forward to painting this. But what I've been doing so far is just sort of prepping it for paint. Fixing some seams that are left, and I was going to pull the rider off of the bike, but you know what? He is on there and does not want to come off, and I'm afraid that if I manage to get him off, it's going to be at the expense of a lot of other pieces. So we're going to paint him in place, which is fine. As it turns out, everything looks reachable on there, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. So I'm doing prep, and then I'm going to prime, and then I'm going to do some research and just look around at what other people are doing. But I'm actually thinking that I have an idea of a direction that I'm going to go, and that's going to be a lot of rust and a lot of color, but faded color. Faded and beaten up and weathered, and you know, exactly what you would expect from an Ork Warboss. And so that is what I'm doing. And so this is really just an introduction to show this project and where I'm going. And so this is going to be a very short video. And there we are. And as I get more work done, I will be sharing it with you. But for now, I'll talk to you later. Well, I kind of thought that I wasn't going to be doing too much today, partly because I spent a lot of time just staring at the model and not really getting anywhere. I got the priming done, and looked at the model and was trying to think of where to begin. I mean, there's just so much to this thing, and I thought, well, you know, when it comes right down to it, there's going to be a lot of weathering. There's going to be a lot of rust. So why don't I start there? And so after I did my primer, I took the airbrush and I went over the whole thing inside and out with scorched brown. Yeah, I know, old paint, but I'm going to keep using it until I run out, which isn't that long from now, actually. And then I did a lighter coat of dark flesh, and those have been in the past my two go-to colors to start on rust. And then afterwards, I took this even older bottle of blazing orange. Note the hard black cap. And I did a little dry brush and a little stippling, and it almost pretended as if I was done with the model and just doing final weathering. And this is what I ended up with. And then at that point I felt like, oh, I know where I'm going with this, and it all started falling into place, just in terms of like I was no longer staring at a model wondering what to do next. So at that point I thought, well, I need to get started with the rider, because he's the focal point, and so I'm going to need to make sure that he gets done. So really all I've done so far, as he is concerned, is, and come on, you can focus on that. Oh, maybe not. In any case, what I did is I started with, again, some more older colors, Ork Hide Shade as a base, and then mixed it with various levels of Snot Green to bring it up. And then I like using this Sap Green from Joe Sonia. It's a nice yellow-green, almost like old Scorpion Green, for doing some highlights. And then I started working on his big prominent lower lip by mixing some of the original green with some of my flesh tones, just to make it pop. And it doesn't quite look done yet, but we're getting there. But I was kind of excited that I felt like I knew, well, I knew where I was going, and I have a really good start on this. And it's going to take a while. I mean, there's a lot going on here, but I feel very comfortable with it right now, so that's a good thing. But that's it. I'm going to go back to noodling on this for a little while. It's late in the day, and oh wow, it's actually a lot later than I thought. And I'm going to probably finish up before too long. So that's it for now, and I'll talk to you later. Well, I'm here on day 2 of this Ork project, and I gotta say, this approach that I've decided to take with starting everything rust colored and then moving up from there has been an interesting one, and it's been focusing the way that I approach this much differently than I normally do, but I'll get to that in a second. I just wanted to point out, since the last segment, pretty much finished the face, although I still need to do some highlight on the eye, and I need to finish his cigar. Oh, and the teeth still need some highlighting, so I guess it's not done at all. But the claw, I kind of got interested in working on the claw, and as you can see, I did a dry brush of bolt gun metal, which I then washed again with Agrax Earthshade, and then I did another dry brush of bolt gun metal to pick out highlights. And then I did something I normally never do. Now, when I do weathering, I try to approach it in a sort of naturalistic fashion, which is start with the way that it would be new and then make it old. But in this case, I'm not doing that, and in fact, because normally I would maybe paint this whole thing red and then pick out the metal coming through where I want the metal to come through. But this case, it was all metal to begin with, and then I just added the red where the red would be left. And you know, it seems like a kind of a trivial detail, but I just don't normally work that way. So for me, it's kind of a new thing, and I really like the results. I mean, the results are exactly what I was looking for that claw. And I'm sort of starting to do that on other areas. Like, I wanted to experiment with using some yellow here on the front grill, and then metal chipping around the edge, which I guess is a little bit more traditional to the way I normally do it. But yeah, so this whole thing gets to be a little bit of an experiment, and I can kind of play with different elements as I get inspired by them, and kind of poke around and jump around with it. And there is so much going on with this piece that I'm going to be doing this for a while. So, but anyway, that's where I am right now, and I will come back a little later and show you my progress. Well, I've been working on this several hours now, and as you can see, a lot more is done. I'm really trying to keep the overall kind of dingy look, as if the paint had been applied, but then sort of forgotten about afterwards. So it's dinged up and and dirty, and once the initial paint was on, then nobody really cared about it afterwards. And the two primary colors that I'm using here are red and blue, as you can see. And because I started with the rust colors, it's been pretty interesting to work on the big panels of color. And essentially what I've been doing is dabbing it and building it up. I've got this really nasty brush here, and well, this one and then others, and you can go in and just sort of dab the paint on and concentrate in the center portions of the panels that you're doing. Sometimes, like down here, you need a fine brush to do it, but you're still dabbing it in. And the nice thing is that, especially with red and yellow, it requires several coats to even cover properly if you wanted to get the full effect of the red or the yellow. So by dabbing it on and building it up and sort of working towards the center, you really get a nice mottled paint effect. It doesn't look, well, it gets that sort of depth to the paint that you're usually going for when you're doing any painting. I had been working front to back, sort of starting here and then just slowly working my way back when I wasn't working on the rider. But then it started bouncing around a little bit more. A piece like this drags me in lots of different directions. So I might be working on his shoulder pad and then go to work on the guns, and then jump over to the front fender and then do the horns, and then back to the fenders again, and then maybe do, like, notice that I could build up the color a little bit. It is not the best way, not the most efficient way to do this, but unfortunately that's the way my brain works a lot of the time, especially with something like this where it's really just hard to sort of nail down a particular direction in terms of, start to finish. Where do you start and what do you do next, and where do you end up? But it is all working out, and he is really coming along nice. I'm very happy with it so far, and I'm going to continue doing some work on him, and I might come back again before we finish. This video is actually ending up being a lot longer than I expected because it's taking place over 2 days. Since I never got the first video uploaded, it's all just going to be one. So hopefully I'll be back.